Peter John Ross hosts a roundtable discussion on criticism and indie film.
Okay, so pretty much what we want to talk about is kind of how, we have a panel of critics and filmmakers and former filmmakers that are now critics, and I want to talk about, how does criticism affect the indie filmmaker? Like, more importantly, we'll start with the critics, it's like, do you take into account in your review, the budget of the film or anything to do with how it was made, or do you only look at the film?
Coming from WCBE and reviewing big movies all the time, and then coming into the independent market in Columbus, I had to develop a bunch of different standards. Matter of fact, I think the first thing I saw a film of yours, I said, and I remember you saying this to me, and I remember saying it to you, I really have to see other things that are being done to be able to compare it to what you do. I can't compare you to Avatar, my friend. I don't care, It's just not the same thing. It's not the same format. It's not the same length. I want to see other things that are doing before I can review you. I reviewed short stuff that you did, and they held up in terms of the quality with the big stuff. Remember that? I wrote you a nice review today.
Yes, you did. You wrote a very nice
I don't regret it.
Well, thank you. So, I don't regret it either.
I think the smaller reviews on our remark of what's going on in Columbus need to be reviewed. I think the smaller films need to be reviewed, and I think we need to leave that record behind. So it's probably more important for me right now to review what you ladies and men are doing here 48 hours than it is for me to review Thor. You can review Thor. You'll do a good job with Thor.
Well, thank you.
But also it creates not only you're reviewing it, but the awareness that it creates. So many more people know about.
It's good to be ambitious, but if you're sometimes overly ambitious and you're trying, I've seen independent films that they're like, this is so many effect shots and it looks really cool.
Right.
And you're like, it looks great, knowing your budget and knowing what you did. But if you want to compete against somebody else that's maybe a little bit higher, it's ambitious, but it may not garner the same reviews, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I think the smaller ensemble pieces like Winter's Bone actually is easier to get better performances because you've got a cohesive cast that are working together. You're able to get them to work together and know each other. And, in the bigger budget things, most of those actors aren't even in the same scene together. To try to pull that together, to get them to work together, it's harder for them. So I think the smaller film has more of a chance to have those great, beautiful performances, and the director, absolutely director.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like for the indie filmmaker, any review you get, even if it's the worst review ever done, you should say thank you.
And you get it, because you get ink and you get covered.
Right.
It's not only there's no such thing as bad press as much as this person took the time to watch and write about your movie. As opposed to ignore it, which I think is far worse.
Right, because someone then saw that and said, oh, well, I don't necessarily always agree with this guy or whatever. That sounds interesting. I think I would like to see that.
Or
that
they
person
say...
now has an impression of your film. They're aware of it.
Oh, yeah. Or they say, well, if it's that bad, I've got to see it.
Right, exactly.
I think there are plenty of reviewers out there that don't care if they say anything positive at all. So I think it's nice that you try to find something positive or the thing in it that was most successful.
For an independent.
Especially for an independent. Because it's so hard for anybody to make a movie, even if you have $200 million in the bank to do it. It's so difficult. So it is nice for someone that they regard as someone to say something positive about their work.
I appreciate everybody giving me their time and giving me your thoughts. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Framelines is brought to you in part by Backyard HD, Tape Central, Production Partners Media, and grants from the Greater Columbus Arts Council.